The following Voters' Voice election special is a production of KERA in association with the Texas Lyceum.
Texas voters coping with a troubled economy.
How many people in here, is this your first time to be unemployed?
I know myself, I went several months without a job and it's really tough out there.
Security along the border and funding for schools.
We're both college educated and we think it's very important that everyone has an affordable college education.
Find out if the leading candidates have answers. In Voters' Voice, Race for Governor.
Texans are taking a last look at the leading candidates for governor. And for the next half hour, we're going to examine some critical issues. We're also going to look at how Democrat Bill White and Republican Rick Perry are measuring up. Libertarian Kathy Glass and the Green Party's Deb Shafto are also on the ballot. Hello, I'm KERA News Director Shelley Koffler. The nonpartisan Texas Lyceum recently asked voters to identify the most important problem in our state, and for the second year in a row, Texans said the economy and jobs.
As far as finding work, it's affected by the economy. My mother and father have both are jobless at this point, and so they're seeking work now, and it's just harder to find work than it used to be whenever the economy was thriving.
If we could look at our economy in Texas and look at the jobs specific to Texas that have always been a main staple in our economy here in Texas, I think it would be nice if somehow we could mandate that a certain percentage of those jobs have to stay here to allow Texas residents to have employment.
Texans increasingly say immigration and border security are just as important as the economy, and voters identified education as the third most critical problem. So, where do the candidates stand and what solutions do they propose? Here with some answers are columnist and political reporter Bud Kennedy from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram and Cal Jilson, a political science professor from Southern Methodist University. Thanks for joining me today. I know that many of us hoped that we would see Bill White and Rick Perry on the same stage debating. KERA and many other media invited them to do just that. Bill White said in most cases yes. I think in all cases yes. Rick Perry declined all invitations. So here we are to provide some context to this election and to the governor's race. And Cal, I wanted to start with you and talk about this first most vital issue for voters, and that's the issue of the economy. Rick Perry tells us we're doing great. We have the best economy in the country relative to other states. Bill White says maybe not so much. What do we know?
Well, what we know is that there are two economies in Texas. If you are employed and if you have health insurance and make a good salary, you're very comfortable. Your taxes are low, government is small, and you get to decide what to do with that money. But if you're not working, as some of the people we just heard from are not, or you don't have health insurance, Texas can be a pretty rough place to live. So Texas has done very well in job creation over the last couple of years compared to other states, but we've got a lot of suffering in Texas too, so it depends upon which economy you live in.
Let me throw out just a few numbers for our listeners and our viewers here, just to sort of back up just what you're saying. And this would be a defensive, I guess, of Perry's position. We are the #1 exporting state. We have unemployment that's way below the national average, and we lead in job creation, at least we did in 2008. Bill White would say that we have 17% poverty, which makes us the sixth highest in the country in terms of poverty, the highest number of uninsured. And we also are creating a lot of jobs, but many of them are low-paying jobs. So you're right. We have two kinds of economies here. But how do you think that voters are receiving this information?
Well, I mean, Perry, of course, and the slight uptick in the economy is playing into Perry's message. His message is just this whole Texas superiority that plays so well to voters. It's, Texas is great, Texas is big, Texas is wonderful. Let's all cheer for Texas. The fact that the economy has actually turned up a little bit lately, and some more people have come back to work, has given him a little more fuel for that message.
And they're really playing this out in their ads as well. So I think voters really have to sort of maybe take a look at their own pocketbook, their own households, and determine what's important to me. Yeah,
but Texans know this. It's ever been so. You go back a half a century, and Texas has always had no income tax. It depends on the sales tax and property tax for local government. and it provides thin services. So it's possible to do very well in Texas and to be very pleased and comfortable that your money goes further. But if you have needs, if your children are in the public schools, or if you don't have health insurance, or there are potholes in the roads that you drive on, then you feel like government should do more. But most Texans side with small government and against raising taxes, and this recent Lyceum poll showed that in spades.
I think the debate over the economy also includes this issue of the looming budget shortfall that will face state lawmakers when they go back to Austin in January. We are hearing all kinds of numbers out there, but I think conventional wisdom is somewhere maybe north of $18 to $20 billion, a tremendous amount to try to take care of as these lawmakers go back. KERA recently interviewed Perry and White about how they're going to tackle the state budget deficit. Perry said he's the best qualified candidate because he's worked on the state budget. Bill White claims that Perry's hiding the seriousness of this crisis, and White says Perry should have cut state spending much earlier.
As soon as it became clear, which it was a year ago really, that sales taxes would go down and not up during a recession, at that time they should have been renegotiating vendor contracts, figuring out when employees retire, how they could reallocate the work so that you can maintain a level of service without, while reducing your costs. We need a governor who will level with the people of our state. We need a governor who will address issues in a economy where you have a very high unemployment rate compared to what Texas historically has been. Not wait until after the election to address these critical issues, but do so before.
If he wants to be the budget forecaster for the state of Texas, that's a different job. It's called the comptroller. He obviously ran for the wrong job. I've been involved in the state's budget either directly or indirectly for 25 years. As the chief executive officer of the state, of course I take the budget seriously. What I don't do is wring my hands and squall to the top of my lungs that we're going to have to go raise a personal income tax, or we're going to have to raise people's taxes to keep government at a certain level, because I don't believe that.
Well, here's what we do know about how Governor Perry and the current administration has responded. In January, Governor Perry and Republican leadership went to the agencies throughout the state and said, you've got to cut your budget 5% this year. Then they said in May, in the upcoming budget, you're going to have to take another 10% off your expenses. So I guess the question is that adequate? Did Governor Perry and the Republican leadership act soon enough? Because Bill White thinks he didn't. But
well, again, this issue plays to Perry's strength. Perry can say, I've been in office, I've vetoed spending. He vetoed almost $2 billion in 1 year. I think the total over his term is something like $3 or $4 billion. Bill White, when it comes down to cutting spending, Bill White's big issue has been cutting advertising. He wants to cut tourism advertising and stop advertising the lottery. We're in this big of a deficit, and the only specific you can give is, I want to cut out advertising. I mean, Bill, money is not the Democrats' strongest issue.
What he says is we should be in there renegotiating contracts. We should be working on attrition, not filling those positions. I think he wants to present himself as the business leader he thinks he is and harken back to the way he dealt with the Houston budget when Houston had a problem and he as mayor tackled that.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think Rick Perry has the advantage here, as Bud was saying, because in 2003, they cut to balance. And so what Rick Perry is saying, I will not raise your taxes. I will cut this budget until it's in balance. What Bill White wants to say, out of his business background and his experience as mayor in Houston, is I will look at every little item in that budget and I will squeeze out any waste, because he knows he can't say, I will raise your taxes. Rick Perry in that clip said he's talking about raising an income tax. Well, he's not. He's never mentioned an income tax, but he has left on the table the idea that additional revenues may be necessary in order to help balance this budget. And that's enough for Perry to come in after him on taxes.
Bill White's running as a businessman who tackled difficult spending issues in Houston. Did he do it adequately? Can he make a claim that he did a good job, Cal?
Well, I think he did it on small things. I mean, I had an opportunity to talk with Bill White, and the example that he used in that conversation was cell phones in city government. Too many people had cell phones. They had unrestricted use of it, and he and a team of people went in and cut some of that out. Well, that's probably quite admirable, but you'd have to do a lot of that on a lot of different budget lines to get to an $18 to $21 billion deficit. So he is used to running a business and running it lean. It took him a while to get his arms around the Texas state budget.
He cut pension costs. This was highly controversial. It's really complex. We won't give all the details here. We have information online at KERA.org if you want to look at that. But he went in, pension expenses were high, he cut costs, then he sold bonds, for which he took a lot of heat. But he says that what he did was drive down costs in the current years so that further out, Houston will not be underwater. Bud, did he do a good job?
Houston will be in debt to pay back those bonds. You know, the cost of pensions is the giant issue facing state and local governments all over, to the cost of pension obligations. And you know, Houston is now deeply in debt to cover those obligations. It is moving the debt down the line.
So do we think he did a good job as mayor?
You know, the current mayor has had her own history of comments, both criticizing and praising him. But you know, in the beginning, she was pretty critical of the financial condition of the city.
Yeah, but Bill White was elected mayor 3 times, and the last 2 times by 80% margin or something like that. The business community was more satisfied with his governance than they usually are with Democratic mayors. So I think you have to count that term as mayor as quite successful. And Nice Parker, when she came in, as many people coming into a new job say, there are bigger problems here than I thought, they aren't my fault. And then she recognized the impact that was having on the election and tried to back out of it. But I think you have to say he was a good mayor of Houston.
Well, if you get 70% plus of the vote, I guess somebody likes you.